In this new year, I really want to pay a bit more attention to my money and budget because I do have some big long-term plans coming up that I want to tackle. But how the hell do I do that? Don't panic. Here are 5 tips for you. Hi, I'm Vincent. And I know the feeling that you might have right now. When I was a student myself, money could be tight at times, and that can be quite stress-inducing. In my very first job, I did struggle financially, at the very least until I got my first raise. So money, or rather the absence of it, was a challenge for me. But I assure you, almost every person still has some space where they can save money or budget better. In other words, you can really make it easier for yourself. My very first tip would be to define and monitor your monthly budget. Far too often we feel like we're living from hand to mouth, and then we look at how much money is left and are surprised at the end of the month. In other words, your first task is to make a concrete overview of the money that is available to you. However small it may be, we need this step in order to see where we can make savings or what we may not be able to afford. At the very least, not yet. Once that's done, we come to the second step, and that's your expenses. In addition to your income, which can be salary, child benefits, alimony, state subsidies, or anything else, list all your expenses as well. Put everything on paper. That's why this step alone is very helpful. It brings everything in one clear overview. The best thing to do is make a very simplistic plus and minus table. This way, you can easily compare your income with your expenses. Expenses are not just your rent, food, train tickets, and your cell phone. It's also the bread roll you buy on the go. It's the coffee or latte to go once a week, eating out with friends, shopping trips, gifts, streaming subscriptions, Netflix, Spotify, the list could go on and on and on. As you can see, there's a lot of small things that can passively erode your budget and decrease it almost unseen. And that brings us to the third tip for today: better budgeting and savings. You can only start to see the different potential sources for savings if you have listed every little thing beforehand. So now you have to clearly prioritize what are must expenses and additional or luxury expenses. Luxury might sound like a big word here, but it's more of an encompassing term. These luxury expenses could, for example, be the coffee to go. Or instead of making a sandwich in the morning yourself, buying one at the bakery several times a week for 4 or 5 years. If you start adding up that in a month, it can quickly add up to 40, 50 euros, which could really be one of the potential points where you could start saving. Unfortunately, I'm also kind of that who sometimes buys into those little personal ads that you get on Instagram and elsewhere. More than one quirky shirt or hoodie has made it into my wardrobe this way. If I did not see these ads, would I have really bought this anyway? Was there really any need for this? In other words, they may not have been necessary for my survival. This doesn't mean you can't buy any nice things. You can set yourself a fixed budget for these things every month. A little bit of play money, so to speak, which you have free every month for things that are fun and are beautiful, but not beyond the previously set budget. My fourth savings tip would be classic food and meal prepping. How many of you go to the supermarket with a clear cost and food list and only buy what you need? I usually don't, and that will be usually my first mistake. So before you go shopping, decide what you want to buy and how much money you want to take out of your household budget for this. One idea is to think about what meals you want to cook this week. Once you've decided, you could put down a list of ingredients that you're still missing on the list, and maybe add 1 or 2 fun points as well that you can budget for. Sometimes paying with card or digitally can be very convenient, but can also help you lose track of what you're actually spending. Another option that is very common in Germany, at the very least, is to pay in cash. Here's the plan. Withdraw a set amount of money per month and per week what you want to spend on food that time. And put it in a separate place so you know this is going to be the money for food expenses and food expenses only. It's purely for that. This will also give you a better idea of how much you need, and you can adjust it accordingly and have a better overview after you've tested this for a few weeks or months. Finally, the fifth tip, a savings tip. Make monthly transfers to a savings or second account so that the money is gone immediately at the beginning of the month and you don't get the temptation to spend it on fun things that you didn't plan for. I started doing this during my first job, for example, but it's a lot more useful if you start this during your studies. Due to the late start, I could kind of start building a little buffer, but it's still worth starting even earlier. If you've ever visited an event with a financial advisor, they would tell you the same. I've been told this when I moderated an event with a visiting company that focuses on financial advisory. This little savings sum doesn't need to be large, right? Sometimes 25 euros a month into your savings account can already pay quite the dividend after 3 years of studies. And if you sell, well, 25 euros is a bit too much in a month. Think about that earlier calculation we did. Instead of buying, for example, a bread roll or sandwich, you could prep your own food and bring that for lunch and already save those 20 bucks per month. Give any and all of those tips maybe a try, or add your own into the comments below. We'd love to see your helpful tips and how you manage your finances. Good luck with your savings in the new year, and I hope to see you soon. All the best. Goodbye.